I feel like diet culture sets you up to never be good enough.
Did you burn 500 calories on the treadmill today? No? Me either.
I mean, anybody can sit with us. We're just really not about diet culture.
But literally, happiness doesn't come from a low-calorie, high-intensity life. I actually do like carrots.
I do too. They're my favorite.
Welcome to the Fit Fueled Free podcast.
So basically, diets suck.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 50. I'm Jenna.
I'm Danielle.
And today you all have the privilege of hearing an interview that we think you're really going to enjoy. We have the honor of interviewing Tennessee native, military wife, avid CrossFitter, and food lover, Britt Bailey, registered dietitian.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this. This is exciting.
Yeah, we're glad you're
excited
here.
to have you.
Especially episode 50. What?
Yeah.
I know.
Wow. This is exciting. Like, don't you remember when you guys were just starting all of this?
Yeah.
Like,
It was
this
like
is
a year ago,
crazy.
around this time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So proud of you guys.
That's great.
We had to chug a beer to be able to record our first episode.
Look how far we've come. I'm sitting here with water and coffee.
Proud of you. No, I don't blame you. So just like a funny little giggle moment, I was telling my husband, I was like, so I'm going to be on a podcast. And he's like, do you need liquid courage for that? I was like, possibly.
Yeah,
But no, I'm good. Just some vitamin water. We're good.
That's so funny.
So we always start off with the question, what was your relationship with food like growing up?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So growing up for me, again, Tennessee native. So we are talking Southern fried cooking. I mean, Sunday dinners were all the starchy vegetables. So it's funny. It's like I grew up with vegetables, but only the starchy ones.
Okay.
So like I really truly thought growing up that mashed potatoes were the only main vegetable you ate, or corn or beans. Even like as sad as this is to say, it was a lot of fast food. We were always on the go, and it was easier. I was an only child. So I mean, at that point in time, like we're talking about the 90s, like it's so much easier to grab a Happy Meal than it is to go home, make food. So it's interesting, like my parents had the same problems that parents are struggling with today. So like it's still something that's flowing on into the future of issues. But that was really my biggest thing is like massive fried food, starchy vegetables, like from here to the moon and back. So insane. But then also at the same time, like that all sounds bad, but man, I can sit here and tell you, like having biscuits homemade through you, something unreal, like people don't do that stuff anymore. So, while well, definitely I'm glad I don't cook that way. I certainly do miss it every now and then.
Do you ever do that like a Southern night just for like reminiscing?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. Have you guys ever heard of chocolate gravy?
No.
Really? Okay. So now you have to, like, after this, go look it up. So chocolate gravy is literally a Southern, like, cuisine. It's basically gravy, and most people would call it like pudding because, I mean, it is chocolate, but you pour it over biscuits. And so I made that for my husband the first time. His family is kind of northern based, so his mom did not make any gravy. And if she is listening, she's probably rolling her eyes like, you're right, and I'm never making gravy, Brittany. But I make that for him every now and then. That's like my only Southern thing I'll make.
What do you eat that with? Like, is it by itself?
Oh my goodness. So like homemade biscuits, oh, to die for. You literally just pour it over. So literally you're eating chocolate on bread. Like, is there anything better than that?
That's amazing.
Yes.
So great. So would you say like growing up then, like, did you have any concept of nutrition? Like, what did you have a healthy relationship with food? Was it just like neutral? Was it bad? Um,
Oh man. So, okay, so I was a gymnast most of my childhood, and automatically, like, that's straight into um, you need to be lean in order to tumble. You need to be lean in order to get on the parallel bars. Like you need to be able to do all of this. And then I went into cheerleading, which here we go again, another sport that is the smaller you are, the more chances you have to be a flyer. It was kind of taboo if you were a bigger cheerleader. And with that gymnastics background, I definitely was more muscular. And so as I was growing up, um, I it was awful. There were times when I would go to school, I wouldn't eat breakfast. My lunch at school would be water and ice. Like I kid you not, I would have a cup of water, a cup of ice because no one ate school food. That was, don't do that. You're not cool if you do that in school.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
wow.
yeah. And then I would go home and I would have tuna and crackers. And I did that for like, I started that around age 7. So that's elementary age.
Wow.
When you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't eat food. I can't, I can't get big. I won't be like the other girls. And it got worse into high school. Even on a level of, so my mom passed when I was 13, and that's a lot of depression. That's 13 years old. I mean, we can all remember being girls at that age. Like we had no clue what we were doing. We were going through puberty. We couldn't even figure out like how to manage our school day, which wasn't that hard, but we were so worried about all those other things. And I had that massive life situation that happened, and I became anorexic. That was the first step into completely and truly unhealthy for myself. Um, and then that actually bled over into becoming bulimic because I did started to do pageants.
Okay.
And in the pageant world, while not even here to like bash on the pageant world, because I 100% I gained so much from that. Like even now as a professional, I can come into a situation and talk and not be afraid of that. Come into a room and meet people and be comfortable in that situation. But it also taught me, well, if you're not thin enough, you won't win. It taught me, oh, you're blonde. They wanted a brunette. You should dye your hair brown. Or your eyes are not blue enough. You should get contacts for that. Your hair is not long enough. You need extensions for that. Like it broke me down. So the bulimia happened because I started to realize like I can like eat something and I'll just throw it up. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then that only got worse because as I started college, I figured out how to binge eat, which is like, oh, I'm the healthy girl. But what I would do is I would go to a fast food restaurant. I would order so much food and sit in my car and eat it. So now it's like my entire childhood, my teenage years, I've done nothing but diet, cause eating disorders, body dysmorphia, every bit of it. That's what I went through. And it took a long, long time to get to a point of where I could look in the mirror and say, I love you back to that girl in the mirror.
That is such a long time that you had to go through like the gamut of every different facet basically of eating disorders. That's really
And it's,
incredible that you are
yeah.
are today.
Oh my goodness, right? Like, there are days, like, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, we create lies in our head and we believe them. And the thing of it is like, just like with any addiction, any kind of hardship, you never truly get away from it because it's always trying to creep back in on you. It's always trying to like come back and attack you in some sort of way. And it's interesting because it's like very rare do you hear that people go from anorexia to binge eating. Typically, they'll stick with one or the other. They don't try to go through. But because my life brought so many different experiences and level of just really some tough times. Like it really pushed me to have to like figure out how to love myself. Let's just say it like that. And even now, like past all of that, those little lies still try to creep up. Like you guys know. I mean,
Yeah.
how many times like you go to a store, you put on a top, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this on the hanger. The moment you see yourself in the mirror, you're like, something's wrong with me. And you try not to have that because you promote like love yourself, but we all still have that moment of like, it still hits me too. I'm not perfect. Yeah.
Sure. I'm glad you said that. I feel like Jenna and I talk about that a lot too, is you don't necessarily, and this isn't meant to be pessimistic, but you don't just like arrive at like recovery and
No.
fully loving your body. Like it takes work. It's just gonna obviously be a much different level of work when you're in the thick of eating disorder behaviors versus just trying to
Yeah.
navigate like our diet culture and body image.
Oh yeah.
How were you able to kind of overcome, like, how did you start the process of overcoming all of that? Because those are pretty significant extremes to go from being anorexic to bulimic to then binge eating disorder. Like, what was there like a straw that broke the camel's back? Did you have a support system? Like, what kind of propelled you into like to moving towards healing and recovery?
Um, so this is one of those I don't ever talk about this. Very rarely do I talk about it, even with close family. Um, but throughout my teenage years, I attempted suicide multiple times, and um, and and remember, we're talking early 2000s situation at that point in time. Um, Even on right when I first got into college, it was my one of my very last attempts. And the whole purpose of that attempt was because I felt like I was never enough. And so what that straw that kind of broke that camel's back for me was I'm worthy. And I went to a lot of therapy. I mean, that's something even now to this day, I'm always going to tell someone therapy is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even you guys can see it when you're with your own clients. It's like, I'm here for you, but I'm always going to refer to a therapist because they are trained. And had I not had therapists along the way, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. But also on top of that is like having family members who reached in and said, you need to go to therapy, who weren't afraid to tell me to go. And I think that's a big problem we have is that people are afraid to love us beyond that relationship. And I guess what I mean by that is like how we are all friends, but if we saw one of us really doing something that was harmful, that was not okay, like we are truly hurting ourselves, we have to see past that relationship and love the other person more than that relationship we have and be willing to lose a friendship, a loved one, a spouse in a situation of, I need to tell you this because I love you. And I love you more than our relationship right now. And I don't want you to go through this anymore. And so when that finally happened for me, it was kind of like the doors opened up. That's about the time I started CrossFit. I did find women in CrossFit that they're okay being bigger. And by bigger, I mean muscular, because those two terms typically get um, interchanged a lot. I've definitely been called the bigger girl, and I always say, you mean muscular, like trying to get people to understand there's a different vocabulary there. But even beyond meeting women in CrossFit is the women I've met even outside of CrossFit who are, hey, I'm okay going to yoga. I'm okay being a runner. I love this part of me and I'm going to embrace this part of me. And that's what is so beautiful about just like, humanity in general is that none of us are exactly alike. And we shouldn't be because then how are we going to grow? We can't. We need differences. We need the change. We need to be able to support one another, get underneath basically this kind of log of heartache and hardship and help lift that log up for the other person when they need it. And so having that support system of family, friends that I had along the way, meeting women who were accepting of their own bodies really pushed me towards this is how you continue to grow, because you're always progressing every day you wake up. And I think that was that moment, that last suicide attempt of realizing I am worthy. I'm worthy of living. I'm worthy of breathing. And this girl that I see in the mirror is worthy. That was a huge turning point.
Sorry, this makes me feel
I know it's a lot. I told you, I don't talk about it lightly either. It's not something like, oh, I'm doing a podcast, I'm going to tell everybody about it. No, it's because someone listening right now, you're there.
Yeah.
And you need to hear this. It doesn't matter about who's hearing this about me for the first time or the second time or the fourth or fifth. It matters because whoever's listening, regardless of your gender, your religion, or anything that's going on in your life, I see you, I hear you. Reach out to us that are on this podcast, because like we want to help you, because in some sort of fashion, we've all been there. We've all been in that desperate position.
Yeah, thank you so much for the vulnerability to share that in this space, because you're right. Like, and that is such a high risk too for anyone who's struggled with an eating disorder, is the risk of suicide attempts, and unfortunately sometimes they work.
They do.
So it's just wild to think like you are this incredible human being, and to know that you were in a place where you wanted to take your life, and to think that the world, couldn't have you. I had no idea that you went through something that intense. And so I just really appreciate you sharing, because that stuff needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate like the safe space. Like, again, you guys have built a platform where people can come and share this because other people need to hear it. But it's also one of those where it's like, I never want another person to ever have to think you're not worth living, and that your body is not worthy, and that your moment right now, whatever that looks like in your moment, whether it's good, it's bad, it's indifferent, whatever, you are worthy. Every piece of you is worthy.
Yeah. I think that helps anyone who is supporting someone going through an eating disorder or any other traumatic experience to know, because I think to someone who's an outsider from eating disorder behaviors, it's like, why would that upset them so much? Like, you can't eat that food. Like, what do you mean? Like, how could you think that about yourself? And to hear someone talk about their attempted suicide that very much coincides with the internal struggles that go on when you have an eating disorder, I think that really just highlights, like, it's not something for attention, which so often gets misconstrued. It's a very real mental health condition that has very serious side effects if not addressed.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something like, again, it's getting better, I guess, in our society about mental health and like being more open to talk about it. But even all of us right now as professionals, sometimes it's scary to like cross that line with a client and be like, hey, I call these like a pulse check. Like I'm checking in on you. What's going on? Let's check that pulse for a second. Like, let's take a deep breath. Let's talk. Because what if I'm that only person today that is going to give them the referral they need, or just the shoulder, or even just the air to let them vent.
Yeah. So not only is it important when you're in a like close relationship with someone, but as a professional, to be able to realize that, you know, you could offend someone, but you could also save their life. And you may open something very uncomfortable, but that's where the therapist referral can come in, and
Right.
an immediate stay at the
Right.
hospital also may be necessary depending on the situation.
Right. Yeah. And that's where, again, go back to that thought process of like, I'm going to have to love you more than this relationship. So, and like, even for myself now doing private practice is like, I'm going to have to be willing to lose someone and that monetary value that pays our bills because I need to love that human being more because that money is not worth it. Their life is worth more than my consultation fees, my session. Their life is worth more than that. And so you have to be willing to say, I'm going to love you more than the relationship we have. And I'm going to say this with the love in my heart. And whatever happens from there is it happens, but at least you tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So how did you get into like your field of work? Like what made you, was it just kind of like you've gone through and you're like, wow, I want to be a voice and like help other people so they avoid going through what I go through? Like what was kind of what made like push you in the direction of being like, this is what I want to do with my career?
You guys are going to love this. So I actually, a long time ago, started out, I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. Um, right. Take that in. I still have to like take a deep breath because that's a lot of school and I would still be in school. But I grew up around a hospital. I told you my mother passed. She had breast cancer. So I was very much used to being in and out of chemo treatments with her. Um, I got to watch an open heart surgery at 7, and this was like way before you had to like be a part of like some kind of volunteer program. My grandmother worked there, and she just kind of got me in, and I was so fascinated by just, wow, there's a heart on the table. Okay, fast forward to getting to college and reading all the requirements for a medical student. That changed quickly. I was like, oh, I don't want to do physics. That was really my turning point of like, no, I don't want to do that. So I decided to take a nutrition class and understand I've been kind of obviously eating disorder mania for me at this point because I think I was about 18 or 19 when I took the nutrition course and it was a dietitian teaching. And her very first day, she said, what foods would you consider are bad? And people are like listing them off. I mean, everything from pizza, ice cream, you know, the traditional things you think are bad.
Yeah.
And she sat there and she looked at everyone. She was like, well, all of you failed for the day. And I'm thinking in my head, you know, because I'm like type A personality. Oh my goodness, I failed. I'm not going to pass the class. I'm not going to pass college. Oh my, you know, panic has set in. I'm sweating bullets, literally about to start crying in class. And someone finally is like, how would we fail? Like, you asked us our opinions, you know. And she said, because no food is bad. She said, this society has taught us food is bad. That was 2010. And just know we have not had like the culture shift has just started. It's, I mean, we're really still in the beginning stages of the culture shift for diet culture.
Yeah.
And in 2010, I had a dietitian say no food is bad. And I thought to myself, like, I like this. What is this? Tell me more. And the more she kept talking, and it was like, it was interesting because she's talking about how, you know, food is basically the body's medicine. And like, she's really just diving into it. And I'm finding myself like as if this was my soulmate of a career. It was like, we just clicked and I loved it. And because I would love to sit here and tell you, oh, because I went through all the eating disorder situations and because my mom passed, I wish I could sit here and tell you that, but it wasn't. It was truly, I sat in a class and I found out one day, food is good. And we are the people that have decided it's bad. We as humans have decided that, not food. We did that. And the more I sat in her class, the more she talked, it was just like, it was, it was like a light had just been turned on for me. And I knew, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm meant to do. And long story short, 11 years later, here I am as a dietitian. And I don't say that to like discourage anyone from doing it. It's just my journey was my journey. It took me a little longer, but that's okay.
That's like the most serendipitous experience I've ever heard.
I know.
Is this a real person?
Seriously, it was. She was so sweet. She was probably in her early 30s, so she was really probably just getting into teaching. I would love to know if she's still teaching at that college because this is when I first started out at community college and right before I transferred to a university. But I would love to go find her and just like go hug her and say, thank you. You produced this. Thank you so much. Like, thank you for being part of that.
Yeah, I was bracing myself for you to say something horrendous that came out of her mouth because that's usually what you hear. Like,
Oh
never
gosh, yeah.
heard a college professor say something like that or heard of a statement like that.
Oh my goodness, no, it definitely. Like I sit here and think about like some of the college courses, and I really hope they've updated their stuff.
Probably now they're starting to, but like you said,
Yes.
that was 2010. That was when I went to college as well,
Yeah.
and that was not it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was the oddest thing because like I went home that day and I was just, I'm going to be a registered dietitian. This is what I want to do. And then it was probably like 3 weeks later, I actually met with a registered dietitian at the at the hospital my grandmother worked at. And it was like I was just having a conversation with a friend. And I was like, I want to do this. This is fun. This is not cutting open to someone's chest. I like this.
Well, at least you still get to like dig into their heart just in a little bit of a different
Right?
way.
Just in a different way. It's so true.
Wow.
I have a curiosity. How have you found your safe space within the CrossFit world? Because there is a very large stereotype of like having to eat paleo and being so like hardcore about that stuff. So it's kind of funny to hear. I know you can't generalize every single group of people, of course, but that's just like very common.
Right. That's some of the big ones. Yeah. So thankfully, and I have no problem discussing this, but thankfully CrossFit is going through a massive change. And if you haven't seen it in the news lately, the previous CEO has stepped down and they're selling the company to a new guy. And I have a feeling he is going to embrace, just we don't just need to do zone. We don't just need to do paleo. We don't just need to do macro counting for nutrition, and that we need to utilize dietitians and not sue them. Because that's kind of what the previous CEO, and I have no problem telling you that that hurt me for a while. I actually thought about walking away from CrossFit when that was going on because I'm like, you're attacking what I've been working towards, and in no way would I ever attack a CrossFit trainer. And most of the people I know through CrossFit, they're not like, oh, Brittany's a dietitian, we can't like her. Like, no, they don't say stuff like that, but it has been interesting because when I first got into CrossFit and at the same time I was still in college, what I'm learning in school and what I'm hearing from CrossFit, I was like, oh man, CrossFit sounds like they know what they're talking about better, but understand that in the academia world, we're looking at the books needed to be updated. And CrossFit was coming more from a standpoint of like, eat more fruits and vegetables. Well, but that's also what our government stands for too. So, in a sense, it's kind of like everyone's piggybacking off of each other. But I've come to the realization I have to hold my own in the sense of I am not going to just sit here and say macro counting is the way, paleo is the way. Um, don't get me started on keto. I will pull my hair out. Um, I definitely lost some followers with that one, but whatever, it's fine. Another day, another problem. But, you know, you cannot sit here and be like, only one way works,
Yeah.
because it doesn't. That's not the truth. Because if it did, then again, here we go back to that same subject. We would all be just alike. Nobody would be different.
Yep.
And that sounds like a boring world. And I don't want to be a part of it. I want to take what I love about CrossFit and anyone who's enjoying doing it and saying, like, okay, let's talk about what works best for your body, not what works best for the majority of people that are doing the sport you're in. Because that's like talking to, a basketball player that's in, the pros, and like writing out an entire day of meals for that individual and then writing out something for a teenager in high school basketball.
Yeah.
It's going to be totally different.
Right.
So same thing with the whole CrossFit situation. And I think that's where I'm super excited to see them head in the right direction. And because I love the methodology of the fitness aspect of it. And I really, truly hope that they embrace that one way is not the way, and that multiple ways of collaborating and supporting one another is actually smarter. Like the smarter choice to pick out of everything. So,
Yeah. Thank you for touching on that.
oh yeah, no problem. Again, probably lost some followers. It's fine.
How did you like your relationship with like movement and exercise evolve and change from, I guess, like elementary, middle school, high school, all the way to college, and then now? How
Yeah.
has it evolved, and what does that look like?
Oh my goodness. I had a lot more energy as a child. We all did. But I just like as an adolescent into that kind of like teenage years, um, it was like gymnastics kind of consumed that part of my life. And it was like all I could think about. And my main focus was how much more conditioning can I do compared to other people in class. It was kind of like a competition, even though we were not competing in class. But it was, who can do more sit-ups than the other person, like just trying to be better all the time. And then when I started pageants is when it got very unhealthy with exercise. This is so sad. Like this is that moment where I look back and wish older me could go back and hug younger me and say, you don't have to do this. But we lived 30 minutes away from the gym that I would go to. So in high school, I would go to the gym. I would leave my house at 4. So I was like 16, 17, leave the house at 4, go to the gym that's open 24 hours, go run on the treadmill for 30 minutes, do some kind of like bodybuilding routine, go home, shower, go to school, be there by 7:45. First off, that's unacceptable. Like what, why? That's like a man in his 50s before he goes to his golf course for the day. What are you doing? No, ma'am. Like, again, I want to go back and hug that girl and tell her to stop, because then the worst part is it keeps getting worse. After school, if I didn't have cheerleading practice or I didn't have gymnastics, I'd go to the gym again.
Oh, Brittany.
And the unfortunate part is that started to transcend over into being in college, where it was like I would, oh my goodness, I'm going to tell on myself for a second. I used to coach a like body boot camp class a long time ago, and a spin class. I would literally coach those classes. They would be back-to-back hours. I would go to work because I was doing college. Then I'd go to school after work, go back to the gym and do my own workout. That's like 3 to 4 hours of exercise. So no wonder I was binging
the workouts while you were teaching, right? Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No one told me that you would, like, as a spin instructor way back when, that you're doing the class with them. Like, oh my goodness. And that's why, like, now it kind of should, the dots should be connected a little bit of why I was binge eating at that point in time, because look at how well I'm starving myself with all the exercise and the lack of food. No wonder I was going to fast food restaurants and binging.
Right, that probably saved you.
Yeah, like my body was dying for something. It needed something. And um, then I got really big into yoga and Pilates, and um, I'm slowly getting back into yoga on my own because I've learned that is just a mental health release. And I did not know how much I needed that until I got it back in my life. Um, then I found CrossFit, which at first, like looking back now, I think I drank the Kool-Aid a little too hard. Should have put the Kool-Aid down. You know, like you don't have to go that heavy that quickly, you know, put your pride down. It's fine. Um, and then like now it's funny because now it's like I just like going to class. Then I like doing a little bit of like a bodybuilding, like that takes me less than 10 minutes after I take a class. Or then there's some days where it's like, I need a mental health day. I'm not going to class and I'm not going to feel bad about it. And I'm not changing my eating just because I didn't go to class.
Yeah.
So it's so surreal to sit here and say now, it's like, I can not go to the gym and not starve myself because I didn't go to the gym. I'm not punishing myself. Let's say it like that.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest mental shift of like viewing exercise as a way to honor your body, not punish it. And I think so many people get stuck in that place of using it to punish themselves or to make up for something or to like compensate. And it's like, it's not the point of exercise. And
No,
just
yeah.
shift is so crucial to use it to honor your body and celebrate it. Like celebrate the fact that it can move and you can do all these amazing like things with it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Like, and the funny thing is like I used to get hurt so much at the beginning of CrossFit, and not because of coaching and not because of the people in the room. It was because of my own pride. I wanted to do things that my body was not ready and capable to do yet. But that pride got in there and it's like, you need to be the best. You need to be perfect. You need to be fit. You need to be lean. You like, whoa, again, here we come with all these lies I'm creating in my head that have no business in my head.
Yeah. Were there any strategies you had or coping mechanisms when you were teaching yourself that it was that you still had to eat that much even when it didn't work out, and if you felt like any kind of anxiety or trigger to like that you were doing something wrong if you weren't working out, and how you,
Right.
other than practice, like was there anything that helped you get there?
Um, you know, this is going to sound so crazy to say this, especially coming from dietitian who, I mean, people normally are wanting you to like basically write out exactly what they should eat every day. Anyone listening, that's not normally how it goes. But what I found what really worked was not tracking a single thing and listening to my own hunger cues and listening to what my body is saying for the day. And it doesn't mean like, well, my body says I need a whole sleeve of Oreos every night. No, that's you. Your body didn't say that. Like, no, no, no. Let's fix that one. Because there are times when your body's like, man, I just want something super sweet. Well, then eat it. But in my case, it was one of those situations where it was like, all right, I'm not working out today, but I still have to eat protein at every meal. I still need to get 2 to 3 snacks in today. I still need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I think that's where, like, even now in my own practice, what I really kind of preach is that your meal should look balanced. It should never be, you know, this like, oh, can't have carbs. Okay, well, that lettuce you're having is a carb. So let's move on, like, okay. But all jokes aside, like, not tracking, learning to listen to myself, kind of doing intuitive eating. And when I say that about intuitive eating, I mean, like, I didn't do it for a diet. I did it to just figure out what are my hunger cues, because literally for years I have been denying myself. Like, oh my gosh, this is so awful to sit here and admit, but I'm going to do it because someone's done this or they're doing it. I went to a wedding with my mother-in-law. At the time, my husband he was off at school for something, and we had just gotten married, and just the way things worked out, I was staying with my mother-in-law, and she and I went to a wedding together. I came as her, plus one. I didn't eat the cake. And you wanna know why I didn't eat the cake? Because I was tracking my macros, and they didn't fit my macros. And that is so unhealthy, because not that macro counting is unhealthy, because it's not. You can do that and do it in a very healthy way. It's unhealthy when you're at a wedding and you will not eat the wedding cake because it won't fit my macros and I'm too afraid that I'll gain weight from it. Are you kidding me? So there we go again. Like, I'm trying to do something healthy for my body, but I'm still controlling my body by macro counting. And I needed to start from ground zero of learn to listen to what your body is saying. Because, like, I was even ignoring hunger cues sometimes going to exercise. So now, kind of moving past all of that is, like, for instance, tomorrow, actually, I'm not going to the gym, but I'm still going to have my afternoon coffee with some caramel in it that I have because we just have it and I need to get rid of it. I am going to put my coconut milk in it because I just like it. Like, I'm still going to have these things. And probably after dinner tomorrow night, I'm going to have 1 or 2 bites of some ice cream with my husband because we love doing that together. And, like, it's food freedom. And when I figured that out, it's now I can look forward to, okay, when I have a new goal for myself and my body, I'm going to be better mentally and physically and even emotionally to handle that situation.
Yeah. So you just had to kind of give in to
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah. I had to be willing to let go. I had some great advice at one point in time. It was told to me that you should major on the majors and minor on the minors. And what that breaks down to is, like, in the world of fitness and nutrition, a major is overall health. Like, is your heart working? Is your liver functioning? Are your kidneys work? Am I going to live to tomorrow based off of what I'm doing today? And a minor thing is having abs. That's
Yep.
a minor. I'm just here to tell you about it. That's called minor. It's not a major, because while abs are important, they do support your spine. We're not going to dismiss any of that. But I'm just here to tell you, at the end of the day, when you've made it to 120, which hopefully someone does, and you've made it there not because of your abs, you've made it there because you made choices for the major things in your life. And that's something, even right now in summer, everyone's like, I really wish I would have been working out during quarantine, blah, blah, blah. I need a beach body. Girl, stop. Go enjoy the beach. Stop it. You are trying to look at the minors when you need to be looking at the majors. So if that's anything going forward, is like major on the majors and minor on the minors.
That is such good advice. I've never heard a phrase like that. I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to warn people so they don't crash their cars when they hear you say that.
Right.
To this episode.
How many more followers have I lost on Instagram now? Keto, abs, losing them by the second. It's fine. It's fine. Actually, no. If you know me, you're probably laughing and loving this right now. It's fine. It's all good.
It's so important. Like, that needed to be said. And the fact that you said it's such a horrible thing that you wouldn't eat cake at a wedding. How many times have I sat and heard someone tell me how proud of themselves they are because they didn't enjoy their life, because their
Yes.
calorie goals mattered more to them than living in the moment?
Yes. Oh, okay. And even further, you guys will definitely, I'm sure you've heard this. People will not take photos because they don't like themselves. But then something tragically happens in their life and they're like, I don't have a photo of me and so and so because that person didn't want to take photos, or I didn't want to take photos with them because I'm ashamed of who I am. Why? That is so minor in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So minor.
But it seems so major at times. So to
Yes.
have a statement like that to kind of put it into perspective is so crucial.
Yes. Yes. And like it works for all areas of life. So like even walk away from health and nutrition and fitness right now. And like I tell people, what are you being intentional with your life? And like really and truly sit here and think to yourself, what am I being intentional towards? And that word intention can relate to priorities. What are my priorities? And if your priorities are to get abs and not eat the cake at your grandson's wedding, whatever, there we have a bigger problem.
Yeah,
There's a bigger problem.
no, absolutely. There may be a handful of people that isn't targeting something
Yes.
at the core, but I don't think very many.
Yeah. I mean, because certainly there's going to be people who are like, oh, I don't relate to that at all, and I can count and track and do all this without any issues, and those are the people that I'm like, can you please share like your successes with that, because people need to hear that too. Like they need to
Yeah,
hear how you're not struggling, because you might help someone who is struggling. But the people that are struggling, again, first off, you're worthy. Second off, even right now, we don't know who's listening, but whoever is feeling this right now, like we are loving you more than this relationship of whatever we have between each other, and telling you that it's okay and that you can, there's a safe space to reach out to people, but also major on the majors and minor on the minors.
yeah, I love it.
You'll have to use that this week to somebody.
So that's your quote.
One person, use that. Use that this week. Even if it's to your husbands, who I use that to a lot.
Yeah.
He's
Taking
probably
a
rolling his eyes right now. Just always say that. Oh, honey, no, my legging purchase is a major. It's not a minor. I swear.
That's
I'm gonna tell Matt, and then he's gonna use it against me when I'm acting out.
I know. I know. It does. It definitely can come back on you. But that's where I'm like, I'm the wife in this situation. I think that doesn't count. Like,
Brittany, is there anything else that you just want to share with our listeners? You've touched on so many crucial things today.
I think the biggest thing just to leave all the listeners with today is that first and foremost, you're gorgeous. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, or anything in between, you're gorgeous. And what I mean by that is even the darkest parts of you are beautiful. And you are worthy of wherever you are in this journey of fitness and nutrition. And as long as you are continuing to get up every day and be the best version of yourself for today, that is all you can ask of yourself. And then when you go to bed at night, understand that worthiness shine through. Your progress for the day is going to roll over into the next day. And I know a lot of people talk about consistency, and sometimes it's hard to be consistent. And that's where I always come back to saying, like, are you progressing? You know, because we can be consistent in a diet and exercise routine, but maybe the mental part is falling off. Maybe we need the yoga and the meditation. Maybe we need journaling. Like, are you progressing? Like, are you truly, again, majoring on those majors? Are you being intentional with yourself? And if that's the last thing I can leave with people that are listening today, is that think of 3 things that you are being intentional with right now in your life. And then think about goals you have for yourself, and how does the intentions you've thought of align with the goals you want for yourself. And if they're not aligning up, you need to start over, because your intentions are your priorities and they matter. And again, if your goals are not matching with what your intentions are, you're not looking at the majors, you're looking at the minors. So that would be my biggest thing, is to leave people with.
Love that.
Yay! You are welcome.
So where can people find more of you?
Yes. So, okay, you can find me on Instagram right now, the Blonde Dietitian. Actually, next week, I officially accept all the clients. I'm super excited to kind of launch that for everybody, but you can find me on Instagram for right now and just follow along. I do, on my own Instagram page, I recommend other professionals on there as well. So if you're just kind of like, hey, maybe she knows of something in the area, like this podcast is recommended on there for people to check out and listen to. I always try to make sure that I am supporting others, even though it's my Instagram page is about me, but that is where everybody can find things, tips, tricks, everything above.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And I really appreciate your shout outs that you gave us this week. That was very kind of you.
Oh no, you guys deserved it. And I I need to say thank you for doing this podcast, because listening to episode 1, so anyone who's been here a part of episode 1, and like you've been following along, it's not only have I seen like both of you grow into just women that are, you've got a drive in you, and this drive is showing others that there's so much more than what's on the surface. There's so much underneath, and people need to hear that. And so that is why I wanted to support you guys long before being on here, is just because it's important. These topics are important. Your podcast is important. You guys matter. You're worthy.
You are
Thank
the
you.
best.
Yeah, it's been a blast listening to you and getting to hear your story. I think it's going to really bless and speak to people. So we really
hope so.
appreciate you coming on here.
Well, thank you guys. You've been the best. I miss you both.
I miss you too.
Oh,
Well, the best of luck with the launch of your business.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so exciting.
Yes. Quick question for the both of you that you do not have to put on your podcast. Do you mind if I actually recommend both of you as professionals on my page of your own personal pages? Are you okay with that? I should have asked you, Janelle, but I kind of did it anyways.
Oh
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Just want to make sure.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, great. Thank you guys. Y'all are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. If you wouldn't mind giving us a rating and review on iTunes, as well as subscribe if you haven't already, that helps us to reach more listeners with our message. You can find us online. Our shared Instagram page is Fit Fueled Free. Jenna's is Jen at Fit, and I actually just changed my Instagram handle today to Dietitian Dani Cast. So it makes more sense with who I am as a person now than my computer handle. So that's where I'm located now. And you can also send us an email at fitfuelfree@gmail.com. So I need to go feed my dog. So thank you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.